So today we're going to be talking about Little Women, specifically reading Little Women for the first time, and I want to talk about some of my thoughts on the book, and I also did some reading vlogs which I will insert as well. I gave updates when certain things were happening in the book, and I'm really happy that I read it because I enjoyed it a lot, but I'll just get into some of my thoughts. She met this boy Laurie, and he's their neighbor, and during the holiday party time they were chatting. So I think that Joe either likes Laurie romantically or just likes him as a friend. I'm not sure about that yet. It'll become apparent, but I will update you when another interesting thing happens. I just took a shower, so ignore my face and hair. But I just read the part with Beth and the piano with Mr. Lawrence, Laurie's grandfather, and it was so sweet and so touching, and I think that Beth is just the character that I love her so much. I really love her, and she reminds me a lot of myself when I was that age, when I was 11 or 12. Just really like that part. I was tearing up a little bit. I don't know why, it just was so sweet. So that's my update. I get the hype. Can you see what it looks like outside? It is so rainy outside. It's a perfect day for reading. So I'm giving an update on Little Women. So I don't remember what my last update was, but I just got to the part where they're with Laurie's friends from abroad. They're from England, and they're all getting together, having some food and playing croquet and playing games together as well. Laurie's tutor, Mr. Book, is there, and he has definitely taken a fancy to Meg, and so I'm really interested to see where this goes. I think it's really sweet, and yeah, it's really interesting with Laurie's friends. I don't know, what's the one? Kate seems a little bit cold, so I don't know exactly what her deal is, but she definitely made Meg feel bad because she couldn't read perfect German, which is such a snobby thing to do. And so we'll see what happens with that. Not to hate on Kate. Maybe something more happens with these people. I'm really liking this book so far. Anyway, I'm going to go back to reading, and I will update you when I need to update you. I don't remember my last update, but Jo just got her first story published, which was a really great moment, but because she told Laurie about it before everybody else, I like their relationship. I don't know if they're the type of soulmates that are friends or the type of soulmates that are more than friends, but I think they're soulmates. That's that. Hi! I'm giving my latest reading update, which is that when I just left the book, Beth had just gotten sick after helping that one family. I forget their name, but Beth had just gotten sick after helping their kids. So she has scarlet fever, and Amy is being sent to live with Aunt March for just a little bit so that she doesn't contract it. And Jo feels really guilty because she wouldn't go help Beth with the kids that night. So she feels like it's her fault that Beth is sick. But we'll see what happens. Oh, and Mrs. March went to, because they got a letter that their father was ill, which is really sad. I can't say I'm terribly surprised. So Mrs. March went to go tend to her husband, their father, and I'm just really feeling a little bit anxious that somebody's going to pass, but I hope not, but we'll see. I feel like their dad's going to, and I'm so sad, but if that is the case, hopefully he gets some time at the very least with his wife before he passes. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I haven't gotten that far yet. So honestly, maybe he recovers and it's fine. But that's where we're at right now. And this is what's going on. Look at this little munchkin. She wants all the attention. Anyway, I'm gonna go because now I've got to go tend to a curry. So we've just been introduced to Professor Bear. I feel that Lori is her soulmate, but Professor Bear is a whole snack, and he is so sweet, and I just love him so much. He's so cute, and I ship it. I'm like here for him. He sounds... I just got through the part where Joe turned down Lori Teddy's proposal. It's like, I know there were all these warnings and it was coming, but like, I don't know. It's okay, it's okay. I just feel like they're like soulmates, but I also have thought that maybe they were just friend soulmates, and that's a special type of soulmate as well. Obviously it's because of that professor, even though she like said it wasn't, but he is like a hearty German snack, so good luck to her with that. Sorry, they were doing construction work outside across the street. Do you want to know when they started the construction work today? 5:30 in the morning. 5:30 in the morning is when they were like, you know what, this is an appropriate time to break out jackhammers. Woo! 5:30 wake-up call. What I really like is that each daughter has her own individual hopes, dreams, goals, personality traits, and I think part of what makes this such a great coming-of-age story is that none of those are seen to be wrong. It's very interesting how Jo has her own thoughts about what she wants to do. Meg has her own thoughts about what she wants to do. Those are both valid. Amy has her own thoughts about what she wants to do. Beth has her own feelings about what she feels called to do. Those are all valid. And so I really, really like that it just shows so many different ideas of what a woman can look like. And I know these days that might not seem like that intense, but at the time that this was published, that was probably really, really amazing for a lot of like young women and older women and men, who cares, a lot of people to read that. I think that that probably made such a big difference in how they saw their goals and dreams and aspirations, and I just think that that's really cool. I think the other part about that is that almost any type of reader could take one of those characters and see themselves in them in a big way or a small way. And even when I was reading it, I felt that each character almost represented, like each March sister represented a small part of me that exists to varying degrees. So I know, like, when I read about Meg and how in a lot of ways she chose a more traditional path, well, in a lot of ways I've chosen a more traditional path as well, and so I see a little bit of that in myself as well. And then there's Jo, who is also a little bit more of a free spirit, and of course I see some of that in myself. I felt like I actually saw like a lot of Beth in myself. Maybe not that I'm that altruistic, but the shyness component definitely. And then of course like Amy, who appreciates, you know, like beauty and art. And I just think it's really interesting how you can take a little bit of each sister and feel some of that inside of you, and that helps make the story come alive more, and it helps make you want to keep reading, and it helps make it feel like the advice isn't as preachy. I just think that that's a really cool way to read that as well, is that, oh, I can identify with one sister, or like there's parts of me that actually identify with all of them. One of the themes that I really also liked in this book was that merit does not equal wealth, and I feel that in this story this was actually brought up a lot because the Marches don't have a lot of money. And I think that one of the times this was illustrated really well was when Meg was first married. She's a newlywed, and she was comparing herself a lot to her friend Sally Moffat, who has a lot more money and lives much more extravagantly. And I think that there's something to be said about like how Meg feels about her character, and even just the idea that Meg works so hard and she feels that she should have more in some ways. And that's just a really good example of how it's not necessarily about how hard you've worked. A huge part of it is just like intergenerational wealth or circumstances that sometimes you can work your way out of, but sometimes you can't. I think this book does a really good job of actually highlighting that it's not your character or your work that necessarily determine how much money you have. And I know that especially like in the chapters where Meg is a newlywed with her husband, she like struggles with that a lot. And she has a moment too where she like spends too much money on something she wasn't supposed to spend really that much money on because they didn't have the money. And it was like an interesting thing to think about, especially I feel like these days that's still very, very relevant. So yeah, I really enjoyed reading that, and I liked that the book highlighted it kind of unabashedly, so openly and so much. Probably one of the things that makes this such a good, of course, coming of age story is the disappointments of growing up. And that's kind of an umbrella term to cover, of course, everything from unrequited love to learning to deal with loss for the first time to navigating new parenthood and navigating being a newlywed. And I think that these are things that are kind of universal, and they reach out beyond time. Like, these are still things that we have to figure out and navigate as we grow up. And I think reading about it in a context that's older just helps to reaffirm that people have been going through this like since the beginning of time, basically, since the beginning of modern humans. I don't know. And I think that there's something comforting in that, where it's like, okay, to a certain extent, these growing pains are inevitable. People dealt with them then, people deal with them now, and sometimes they might look a little bit different, but everybody has them. Like, they are just there for everybody. I wish I actually would have read it at an age like 13 or 14, because I think it would have been that much more beneficial to me. So in general, I just feel like this is a really good book to read, especially as a kind of coming of age story. Like I said, I wish I would have read it when I was 13, 14, 15. That would have been a really good age where I probably could have used this, and it would have been very beneficial to me. But I mean, any age, it's a good book. And it's a good book for, of course, like people who identify as women to read, but it's also just a good book for, I think, anyone to read. It's one of those like drawn out stories that takes place over years and years and years, which I think is really fun, kind of like a saga. And I like that because you get to see like a lot of character growth over the course of the story, more than if it just took place over 1 or 2 years, I think. So it's really interesting to see Jo and her entire story, so like getting over her temper and coming to a more level-headed place, and putting some of her restlessness aside for, you know, other things of value. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I think it's a really great classic to read. I'm so happy that I read it, and I'm very excited to see the movie now as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please like, and please leave me a comment down below if you also like Little Women, or what your thoughts are on Little Women if you've read it. And yeah, I'll see you later.